Hello, I am Tim Wilde from Saints on Cinema, and once again, I'm not doing a Saints on Cinema video. I'm talking here with the G.i.Joburg boys, and we have Steve and Paul, and we're doing another Wilde interview where I'm discussing not playtime this time, but time working with their playthings. That's a bad title, but it works for this discussion. We're going to be talking about vintage figures. And in my adoration of the work that Steve and Paul do and Rob, and I just admire the craft and the care and the what would you say, precision, the skills, the hacks, the craft of playing,
the sheer nerve,
boys,
the sheer nerve of like trying to play with toys that are our age, or in fact older. I mean, my joints creak. These guys, they're falling apart.
Your real joints, right? So yeah. I wanted to talk to these guys from recent conversations. In your channel, in your podcast, you guys throw out a lot of tips frequently, actually, and they're scattered all over the place on different topics of different things you do. And when you get figures, I mean, to the extent, to the detail of Steve, you talking about how you replace with rusty screws in your vintage figures and stuff like that. And I'm just like when you described your playtime, we did a whole conversation about that. I just wanted to dive into that. I wanted to dive into some of the details of what you guys do with your figures in opening vintage figures, in opening new figures, and how you handle them, if there's specific procedures you do before you start working with them, and also curiosity about when you're filming, when you're out in the environment, which is what you strongly encourage, and you've taken your G.I. Joes into salt water, into swamp water, into desert, into snow, whatever, onto the Great Wall of China.
G.I. Joe's there.
Berg.
Yeah.
Exactly.
What things that you guys do to take care of them and everything, because that's a very different behind the scenes thing than just how you set up your camera shots and stuff. So I'm intrigued by this. And I have a figure of mine. This is my what is it 90 watt or 80 watt 83 Zorana, no earrings, so I have no concerns about busting this one open. I bought this when I first moved to Utah in 1991. It was at a local drugstore. I bought it. It still has the sticker, half of the sticker.
Cool.
It's a kind of a mangled box. I just never opened it because I didn't really care about Zorana because I wasn't really into G.I. Joe. But this is
my favorite version of Zorana, by the way.
This one?
I dig that head sculpt. Yeah, I don't like the other one.
I did get Xandar. I know you guys aren't big fans. You guys give him a hard time all the time.
I give him a hard time. It doesn't mean I hate him.
Okay. So I'm excited to actually complete this set, and they really go well together. But I don't have a vintage Zartan, so I shouldn't be that excited. But anyway, this will be exciting. So I wanted to talk to you guys about how do you open a character carefully, a figure. Tips about not ruining the packaging because everyone collects this stuff. Curiosity about how you guys, keep your file cards and all that stuff because they're all different sizes and shapes and everything. I'm just really curious about some of those details. So before we get into it, I want to thank you guys for taking time because we're scattered all across the globe, quite literally. And
you don't get a more diverse trio than this. I represent the future. Paul represents the present.
And I'm an old man, is that what you're saying? Because I'm in the past in Utah. Time zone.
Well, you're in my past, definitely. Yeah. You're 17 hours behind me. Yeah, man. Yeah. So I've seen your future, Tim.
Future. So before we get into opening Zorana here, I just want to let you guys kind of open up, kind of give me some insight. When you guys are dealing with a new figure, a new vintage figure, because I know you guys, because Steve, you've mentioned that you don't have this concern about not unpackaging or not unboxing or opening your figures because there's so many out there that are being collected, that are being preserved, that you're not worried about this historical artifact that you're breaking open, that you're ready to play with your figures. You get one in the mail that's been played with by someone else. This one's going to have less care probably that you're going to need than if you get one that's already been exposed to the elements and children's reckless fingertips. So, I mean, walk me through what is your process? What are things that concerns that you have, some precautions from things that you've already experienced that you know what's going to happen, that you know how to avoid? Because I tell you what, from loose legs and limbs to broken O-rings to broken boot heels. Oh my gosh, I didn't know there was so much to it.
He knows everything.
So walk me through.
I know some things. I'm going to start
stop.
off by being self-deprecating and say that while I'm extremely flattered to be talking to you on this topic, Tim, I wouldn't rate myself as an expert in restorations or anything. I'm just a guy who loves playing with his toys and has experiences perhaps to bear on that.
Just want to say, I understand, Steve, you're probably one of the more experts in actually playing with them. So you have different habits, I think, than most people because you're ready to get down and dirty with them. And Paul, I know you would probably, I don't know, I know you do a little more customizing than Steve does. I don't think, Steve, you are even involved? Yeah. And Paul, I know you're not like as crazy. It doesn't seem like you're kind of just, you're casual, more, not amateur. I don't know how much you really get into, but you don't like make them and sell them, right? You're custom. You just play with them for yourself. You just dabble a little with it, right?
Yeah, more often than not, it's sometimes just fixing up a figure for myself.
Yeah.
Or fixing up other people's figures.
Yeah. So you guys have a lot of skill variations. So yeah, Steve, let's have it. What are your thoughts? What do you do? What are your concerns?
Well, starting at the top, my philosophy with collecting, because I want to get mileage out of these already ancient toys.
Yeah.
I want your beaters. I want toys that have limbs that have been manipulated. I don't prize tight joints at all. I find it kind of prohibitive. And that's perhaps the first topic I want to talk about, is that people in sales groups and buyers prize tight joints. They're constantly hammering on about joints are tight, paint is good, C, condition 9 plus or whatever. That's useless to me, because if the object is to not treat this as a statue, if the object is to pose this guy, you're going to need all those joints to be functional. And joints that are too tight run the risk of actually being frozen to the point where manipulating them will crack the plastic.
Right.
Knee pins are my pet peeve, because a knee joint that you're getting too much resistance, too much friction, the plastic pin that runs through that knee joint can get dragged to a point where it just shears right off. I mean, this is old plastic, man. It's not getting any younger.
So when they're too stiff, if you're bending it too tight, almost more than it's designed to give. And that's one thing I love about HCC is he shows you the range of the joints very carefully, and that's kind of cool.
I'll say this much: it is the most skippable part of any HCC 7/8 review. If you've seen one, you've seen them all.
Yeah.
But he meticulously makes sure to do it to every single figure. Every single figure gets an even-handed treatment in that regard. So he's demonstrating to you the importance of getting that 90-degree bend. If your figure can't do that safely, did you get value for your money? Did you? I mean, is your purchase, as I say, is it meant to just be an unposable statue, kind of standing at attention, stiffly in your collection, or are you going to want some juice in
let's
those
not
knees?
forget. So what do you do? So I mean, so starting with the pins, if that's one of the big ones, and I don't come upon that too often, but I mean, I haven't cracked new ones open, so that's not something you can.
The most frightening leg joint experience you're likely to have are the earliest vintage, so 82s and 83s. I've cracked a Steelers thigh right in half, and similarly, I've broken a pin, a knee pin, similar experience. What you wind up finding in a lot of those joints is there's a kind of a residue that builds up, a white friction rub residue. So the most basic way to unfreeze one of these joints is to clean it.
Okay.
Before you even get as far as disassembly or sanding and buffing, smoothing out the plastic, trimming off bits of plastic flash.
Ew.
The first port of call is just to try and get maybe some soapy water, shoot it in there, and start working it very gently. If you encounter too much resistance, back off. The next step in the chain would be to disassemble that thigh.
So I mail you a guy. First thing you're gonna do is bathe it. Is that right? To clean it.
Yeah.
Or you do like a surface clean.
If you are prizing your screws being unrusted, you can bathe it just up to the knee. You don't have to get any higher than that. A little bit of hot soapy water.
You're just bathing just the leg?
Oh yeah. I mean, that's if you want to keep water out of those out of those screws.
Nails, yeah.
And in a lot of climates, exposure to water isn't enough.
Mm-hmm.
If you're in a drier climate that dries off quickly enough, but if you're close to the coast, and if you're in a moist environment, that amount of exposure to water could very easily get the rust started.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't advise unnecessary water exposure if you can avoid it.
Yeah, what I normally do with that is I've always got like a towel close to. So I always have like a towel or like sort of kitchen towels, paper towelettes, that kind of thing around
Tissue paper.
Tissue paper. I mean,
super absorbent, and you can stuff it right into any
just get it right in,
yeah,
there.
Wedge it right in
paper
the
should be.
Right in there.
letter in the mailbox, right?
But yeah, so like, and then I just put my camera here because I actually grabbed some stuff in the middle of this conversation just so you guys could see. I'm just waiting for the autofocus to catch it there. But
that's the build-up you're talking about.
Yeah. So that's
I would say that's actually plastic stress, isn't it?
No, that's build-up.
Oh, build-up. Okay.
Yeah, that's a bit of build-up and whatever. Because like I'll show you what I like to do, and I mean we've discussed this on the show, and I think Steven's working up to that as well. Like what I like to do, because I mean I've got this Alley Viper that's still fairly minty fresh in a lot of ways, and like when it comes to the joints, that's something that freaks me out as well. Like if I get a toy and its joints are very tight, I'm like ooh, and then I immediately want to like unscrew it, or like Steve said, put it in water just to like soften it up a little bit. But one of the things that like I'll normally do when I've gone through that whole process, so I'll go through the whole sort of moving it around, and this is like probably the most stressful part of the whole process is you got this piece on here and you got to kind of like wiggle it off, but like water helps that a lot. Yeah.
Don't be twisting it aggressively to get it up, because you want to be able to pull it vertically and not get any kind of deviation going, because if it cracks at the bottom of that pin, it's game over, man.
Yeah.
And another thing I like to do is like there's this piece here, like you'll see it there, it's on the top of the knee. Well, it's just trying to get this all in here at the same time.
A little bit of plastic flash from the mold release that is typically hidden inside the upper thigh, but in some instances it can sort of create a little bit of a click that you will feel to the joint, which is unsettling and also creates unnecessary stress.
So you go in and shave that off regardless?
Yeah,
like even if it's loose, you still go in and just do it?
I do it. Let's put it this way. If the figure's legs are loose, I don't feel compelled to open the figure's legs.
Sure. See, and that's the thing. I've never opened a G.I. Joe's legs, ever. And then Steve mentioned recently, like that's one of the first things he does, and he starts talking about screws and everything. And I was like, I've never had that need before. But I'm not.
Tim, I hope you always encounter figures that don't need it, because first prize is to get a figure out of the mail and you can get that 90-degree bend, no stress.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that I'll kind of do as well with this is like I'll give that a bit of a light sort of shave. I might give it a little, like not a lot, like it's very gentle, because as you can see this can be quite unwieldy sometimes and you can end up scratching other parts of the toy. I'll be
now
very,
in my
very
opinion what
that.
Paul's doing now is too much. If
Yeah,
you've gone to that point, you're going to have a loose joint.
Oh,
if you've gone too far, there's no going back.
So you're opening up the
reassemble it at this point without doing any sanding and see if that's cured your problem.
Yeah,
it's time consuming, but it's the best way to get the best finish. Like if you've gone too far and it's now a floppy joint, well, there are ways of correcting that, but first prize is to not go too far.
Yeah, I see. I just don't want I don't want to get into a situation where I put this back on the pin and then when I'm trying to take off the pin to fix it, I break it. And guys, like, I'm not like reaming this thing hard, hey. I'm being very, very soft. I mean, this is a Tamiya. These are the Tamiya basic files. They're not as aggressive as the cheap ones. You know, when you buy the cheap needle files, they tend to be a lot more aggressive. These are more subtle. These are made for model kits. So
it's good thing Rob's not
there,
here.
And I just give it like, it's just like a soft turn. It's like not even. It's like nothing, and that's often enough, because that's the little, like, less than a millimeter, less like little nanometer bit of clearing that it needs. And then I got a leg that bends really well, and it's not floppy. It's like, you know, you can see the gravity's not affecting it, and it's got a bit of tension, but it's good enough. It's not going to break on me, and I'm not going to go.
The tightness of that screw, is that an aspect of a loose knee joint?
It can
be.
Yeah, it can be. I've found it to be sometimes, especially with some figures. I've found it to be a thing. In fact, before I started I started becoming, and let's call this is a destructive process, okay? It's a destructive process because you're going in there and you are doing a bit of sanding or something. So I would say before I initiated into using a more destructive process, I used to just loosen the thigh screw here a little. And sometimes that used to be enough, and it was good enough for me. You know?
The tension typically is created from the friction between the lower leg and the pin. The part that screws on to sort of cap it is more often than not just creating a break. It's just stopping it from, you know, shifting. So that creates a sort of secondary tension.
So I was about
just
to say...
a note on screwing, though.
Yeah, go ahead. No, go ahead.
I would suggest with these ancient pieces of plastic to insert the screw as far as deep as it goes without any screwing, then back it off slightly. Back it off until you feel a click. So turn it counterclockwise till you feel the click of basically the screw thread lining up with the plastic thread. Once you feel that click, then you can begin to tighten.
Instead of forcing and grinding the screw into the plastic.
It does my head in when someone else replaces an O-ring. If I don't trust them necessarily, they could destroy the figure before it gets to you. So, you know, oftentimes a seller who doesn't want to be selling, you know, a G.I. Joe that's in parts, you know, they want it to look as good in the listing as possible, will go in and firstly use the wrong gauge of O-ring, because there are many O-rings on the market and not all of them are suitable for this kind of action figure. You know, an O-ring that is too tight or too thick will put a lot of pressure on the crotch joint, the crotch piece particularly. So that's the major sin. And then the secondary, sort of more minor sin, is that they run the risk of really aggressively turning that screw. You know, or doing it, you know, just doing it with slightly less care than you perhaps would. You know, if this is your precious collection, you're going to use all these tricks, whereas someone who's selling hundreds of figures in a week might not take necessarily as much care with each individual one. So yeah, a screw that's been put in rather roughly can create a gap along the two halves, which you can never really correct.
Because it kind of pulls, it kind of tweaks it a little bit, right?
Yep. Yeah.
So, and using the wrong kind of screwdriver, you're also going to create a bigger hold where the backpack's not going to fit. I know that can sometimes happen too, which is a huge mistake. You're definitely using the wrong screwdriver if you're doing that.
That's a pretty unsophisticated thing to do, man. Anyone who's using a screwdriver that's wider than the hole in the back of your figure possibly shouldn't be attempting this fix.
Yeah, but I mean, to be fair, like, that's a good mistake to learn from, and I hope people, you know, can glean some wisdom from that, because screwdrivers. Here's the thing, right? I use this on this video, like I'm using a slightly smaller one, and that's naughty, bad Paul. I normally use a slightly bigger screwdriver than this, because the rule of thumb when it comes to a Phillips head is to be a little bit bigger than the screw that you're trying to unscrew, and that helps you prevent stripping. of the screws. And so that's like also another thing. So like obviously don't go too big, because then you'll have backpack holes that don't work. And then don't go too small, because then you're gonna shred the screws. 'Cause like for example, I wouldn't. This screw here is like super rusty. And thanks to the magic of videos and white LED lights and the fact that the toy is orange, you can't see how rusted that screw is. But it's pretty rusted. I mean, if I compare it to the other one, you can see how shiny the other one is. Right. So I wouldn't use this screwdriver on that, because I know for a fact it's gonna strip it, and that freaks me out. So I'm gonna use a much bigger screwdriver to get that out.
So a rusty screw, you're gonna do a bigger screwdriver.
It's not so much rusty, just in general you should be using a bigger screwdriver. But yeah, if it's rusted, you're gonna eat a lot of poop if you try to use a smaller screwdriver, because you're gonna completely destroy that screw. And listen, there is so much information on the internet about how to unscrew rusty screws. The common one is to use the rubber band. It can work, but it doesn't work on small gauge screws like the ones in G.I. Joe's. The other thing is to use super glue. Your mileage may vary. And then you actually do get products out there. And I can't think of the name of one right now, but you do get a product out there that restores a screw. That's actually designed for you to put it into a strip screw and take it out. And then the most difficult, and the one that actually requires some level of skill, is to actually drill into the screw. Yeah, and that is like, and I say that it requires some
mistake.
Skill. Yeah, it's
always
a very
a mistake.
Dangerous. It's a very dangerous thing to do. It's a surgical procedure. Let's put it that way. There we go, Steve. Those are
gents. This is my this one on top is my back screwdriver, and on the bottom is my
leg
thigh screwdriver. The bigger one has a lot more purchase, and because the thigh screws are seated a lot shallower than the back, you can get in there with just
yeah. That's a big deal.
Whereas the other one will actually have to reach into the back hole, so it has to be quite slender.
Yeah, and remember that, guys. Like, if you want to get in between anything's thighs, it is better if you could just bring the bigger screwdriver.
Leaving it alone.
Crickets.
Sorry.
Grown inducing.
I am impossible. I'm so sorry. This is why they don't.
These are all technical terms. You're good. Steve, do you have the sizes on those screwdrivers, or is it just
certainly not an Imperial, my friend. If you go to a Muji store, the set that you can purchase there would probably be the best bet, and they're magnetized, which is handy, because how often have you been unscrewing in a less than favorable lighting environment and the screw going to the ground and being like, oh crap. I would suggest always being in a favorable lighting environment, but hey, sometimes beggars can't be choosers, and sometimes you are making repairs in the field. So get magnetic
repairs.
Yeah.
Speaking, So Tim, to come back to opening your card, dude. I've also got a carded figure here. I'm not gonna open it on your episode, because that's not fun. That's gonna take, it's not gonna be fun for you.
Care.
I don't want to ruin. No. You can save your Serana for your episode. I'll save this one for one of ours. So I've got this Colonel Courage, which is dying to come out of this packaging, and I have considered a few options. So what I used to do with the 25th anniversary stuff is I used to use a knife much like this one, but not as expensive as this one. This is like one of my modeling knives. So, but I used like a knife like that, and I would cut into here, and that's all hunky-dory. That's like, it works out pretty well, but then the problem is you have this little bit of extra plastic card flash. But take it or leave it, because the nice thing about that is you don't end up hurting the artwork. I have also heard, and I haven't tried this yet because I don't encounter many carded figures in my life to really try it. But I've heard guys use a heat gun, and I've heard guys use an iron where they sort of work on the back and it loosens up the glue. I've heard that. With the heat gun, I've also been told that you get heat guns for like craft work, not necessarily like a hardware heat gun, like a scrapbook heat gun. And I believe that those are pretty good for it. And I think maybe just common sense tells me maybe just put a little bit of paper or something here, whatever, just to protect it from pulling this off.
Baking paper.
Like a baking paper or something, Or what do you guys in the States? You guys call it baking parchment or parchment paper?
No one calls it parchment anything in.
Okay, well, I just know that because we use
We're good with
I use it a lot for making my own wet pallets. So
yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, sounds like a lot of work.
Yeah, so
I mean, extra effort for the box art. I mean, are you that careful in opening your new ones? I know, Paul, you collect more newer ones than Steve does, but
I am a little bit
that careful with them.
I am. I mean, like with the Motu stuff, for example, thankfully all the artwork that's worth it is on the back. So, but what I like to do is, and this is what I used to do when I was younger. We would like when I pulled off the card from here. So I would like try to get my finger here. Yeah. And like we would like kind of pull it, and so that you're pushing it against. Like, but you're still gonna get that white tear-offness, but at least it doesn't tear off the whole artwork because you're kind of stopping that from happening.
Right.
Yeah. I mean,
because you're trying to prevent that top layer of the paper that has the color on it to just
peel it all off.
Shred off. Yeah.
Yeah. For us, it's like a victory when you open the card and you can still read the instructions.
Ooh.
Yeah. Yeah. That's how you know you've done well. And like when you've opened the card and you can
insert missile into press button to fire.
Can I give you I'll give you a bit of a backstory for that, by the way. Just a fun little backstory. I got ambushed at a very young age. I remember pulling him off the shelves at CNA, which is a local news agent in South Africa. And ambush's gear is kind of straightforward, maybe to us now, but to like a 7-year-old kid or 6-year-old kid,
it was meaningless.
It was like, what
utterly
the hell is this green thing? Okay, it's like you can tell it's supposed to make a tent. You're just not entirely sure how. And I was trying to read the instructions through it and whatever, but I was just excited. I opened this thing up in the car, and I had to piece together from the little bits that weren't torn off on the card. I had to piece together from that how that all worked. Needless to say, I never really perfected it when I was a kid, and it's only much later. I think it's only much later into my adult life actually that I actually saw how it was supposed to work, and that's not unusual because there are a lot of guys that are still learning things about their G.I. Joe toys. But yeah, so ever since then, I'd always endeavored to like kind of, make sure I open it. And I also do try to open from the bottom as much as possible as well.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I was looking at this one. I was like, at what point did they start putting there's the little gap? In later figures, they started putting little gaps there so you'd have a place to start with your fingers. But then that's when you started coming upon like empty packaging like in Toys R Us and stuff like that. So I think they kind of did that, and then they kind of overcorrected, and then they went back because they wanted to make it easier for kids to open them. But this one, it almost seems like it's there, but I think it's just because it's really old. I don't think this is actually designed to have that little space at the bottom.
Hey guys, I mean, if you got a retro figure, one of the retro G.I. Joes, you literally just need to, like, if you have a retro G.I. Joe, all you need to do is just shake it hard enough and the bubble will come off itself.
Yeah, right? But I mean, there's this like, you can see there's the little dip at the bottom of the plastic here.
Yeah.
It almost seems like that was designed for you to be able to get a little
that, and I think it's also to degas the plastic, eh? I think it's to help degas the plastic.
Oh, yeah. Well, I don't have any, like a Batman figure or something to compare it to. Well, I already took it out. I didn't think about it. Here's the new Cobra Trooper. I don't know what I guess the outer part may have been different.
Oh, wow, the card fell off.
Yeah. I already took this piece out. Okay. All right, I'm going to do it. So I have my X-Acto knife here. So I'm going to so you're stabbing down, wrapping around the plastic. You're not going underneath the plastic.
No, I'm going underneath. I'm trying to go underneath as much as onto the side.
I'm going to give this
before you start, Tim, just want to make sure, is there adult supervision close by?
No, but it's 5 a.m. for me, and I think we can do this quietly, and no one will ever know. It's not like this is recorded and going to be on the World Wide Web. It'll just be
okay, good. No, we just don't want you to get into trouble, man. You know, like handling
Cut
sharp
my
objects
finger
without adult. Yeah.
Okay, so just tipping it under. Yeah, and you're right. This is like 35-year-old glue or whatever.
I like how you're keeping it off shot, because if you do cut your finger, nobody's gonna see it.
No one will see it, because then we can still put it on YouTube.
No pressure, but I'm gonna make you solo.
Okay.
There we go.
Yeah, I don't have my cell phone angled down or my GoPro or something. So I'm getting some. I don't know if that's right.
Oh,
I have
sorry.
a swamp cooler. Let's see. You can even see it. I'm not even holding it up. I'm not even paying attention.
Yeah, that's
I can
great.
I can just kind of like pry it. It just pops open almost.
Yeah, the prying is not a bad
little-
idea.
Losing a little color there.
It's cool as long. Yeah, dude, that's great. That's very and ladies and
Weapons
gentlemen,
falling
notice
out.
how Tim is cutting away from himself.
Safety
I was a Boy
first.
Scout for like a week. Okay, so this isn't a real test because
Spelled.
this is so old. But all right, so that's probably the most preserved. I got a little hanger there.
That is beautiful.
Stunning.
I got
And
really lazy there.
that is beautiful. And Tim, as far as I'm concerned, that's where it matters the most when you're opening a vintage card. Like,
Yeah.
you're not some kind
So-
of savage, you know?
Peg holes and stickers. Thoughts real quick for you guys?
I never remove stickers, price stickers from my cards.
If you had one that didn't have this removed, is that like just super? Is that like the Holy Grail?
No, that doesn't bug me. I know it bugs some people, but it doesn't bug me personally because I'm never gonna resell it. That's actually, I think the question there is, if you're gonna resell it one day, or you would like it to retain its value to resell one day, then
card?
yeah. I would say don't even try to fix the card, because trying to fix the card is like trying to repaint a masterpiece. Excuse the extreme.
Mona Lisa.
Yeah, like the Mona Lisa in the Mr. Bean film, you know.
I've got a card here, gents. This is a Fun School
Nice.
India card. The artwork is precisely the same. The bubble doesn't have that nipple at the bottom.
Interesting.
Yeah, squared off. So I don't know if that helps your theory that it allows the plastic to gas off, Paul. 'Cause
I
this
think, yeah,
essentially
dude, maybe
was-
by
was
that point they were
totally flat.
using. You see that? Okay, so here's the thing about like plastic and molding and whatever's. The part of the quality control when they make toys or Tupperware or whatever the hell it is to let it go through like an airing process. It's part of the quality control. It's why when you go and buy stuff at like a dollar store, like a yoga mat from a dollar store, it smells like got an intensely strong chemical plastic smell. It's because they haven't put it through the degassing process. They've just gone straight and wrapped it into that packaging, and that's just like it's soaked it all in. On top of the fact that they've used cheaper materials to make it, because they actually are more hazardous. I think when Hasbro started this endeavor, I think they used a slightly cheaper plastic that maybe was a bit more pungent. And as they progressed, they used a
You
better
smell
quality plastic. Because
Yeah,
McFarlane
what
had
does she
the same
smell
problem.
like, Tim?
Smells like 1984 or whatever. No.
Just so
It
that the
does.
comments don't nail us, bro. I think she was an '86 series figure, her and her brother. But the card. will
Also,
be
she's
all
got
like
color
this.
changing plastic as well. Hey.
Oh, she does?
Yeah.
So this says 1983, 1985 Hasbro. So what does that mean?
Whoa.
Oh, that's just when the trademark was issued.
Okay.
Look inside her thigh.
Oh, I get a little-
Or on her
Little-
butt.
Hey,
Either on her
zingers.
butt or
5:30
in
in
the
the
thigh.
morning. Well, I don't want to touch her yet. We'll get to her thighs in just a minute. So first thing, accessory came out. So the buzz saw blade weapon.
Gun.
So we have
Weed whacker of evil.
yeah. So we have a couple blades or one blade that's like a little off. Do you guys even mess with those kind of things? I know some miniatures and things you boil them and mess with the molding a little bit.
You can do the
You guys
same
even
thing
care
there.
about that?
You can do the
What's
same
that?
thing there, but also you can do the same thing with that if you really, really wanted to. But look carefully at that weapon and you'll see that her spokes are not meant to be in line. They're meant to be a little bit off. They kind of alternate. They're like
but that one is like,
I want to say Spurs.
That one is like way off.
Oh no, that one is a bit naughty.
Yeah.
But then again, okay, I don't have mine right to hand
it's just
now.
a point of conversation.
I think it's fine, but if it's like a gun barrel that's like doing this, then yeah, you want to fix it. You know what I mean? Like, I think small little personality, small quirks in a toy, actually give it more character.
Do I want to just pinch it a little bit and then it might snap?
Just don't.
It does. I do smell an age on there, Steve. I really do. That's weird. It's really weird. So, and I have some, I have other ones. Here's Xander right here. Doesn't smell the same. There you go.
Nice. Is yours also a bit kinky there, Steve? Or is it okay? No, it looks okay.
It's okay.
Yeah.
No, those two that you're referring to, they do seem a little bit closer.
The same one?
But yeah, I mean, it's such fine plastic that you could very easily bend it back into shape even without hot water.
Yeah.
Hot water might just make the change a bit more permanent. But
okay. So you know what it smells like?
Since this accessory is neither here nor there for me, like
I don't care.
I don't know. It's such a random thing for Zorana, to be honest.
It smells like an old book. Is what if you go into a library and you smell a book, it's like that old dust just been sitting there. That's what it kind of smells like.
Amazing.
Just like humans.
So anyway, okay. So
it's probably the cardstock that's kind of soaked into the plastic.
Yeah, that's probably.
He smells like 35-year-old cardboard.
Yeah, that's what it is. Like I said, I got this in '91. So, all right. So here I have brand new Zorana. My camera's like pointing a little higher. Doing my 1/3 filming here. Okay, so walk me through, Steve. What do I want to do first? Do I want to even bother touching joints? And I'm going to do whatever. I'm not going to give it a bath and everything because I'm not that invested in this experience. This is just for a visual display here, example. But what would you do?
It's a new toy. I think you can bend its legs.
Bend it? Creaking. You hear that? Can you hear it?
It's got some give though.
You hear it? You hear that, right? See, and I don't want to force it too hard. Oh, but she has little what are they called? Not stirrups.
Spurs.
Spurs. Yeah.
That's it. Yeah.
All right. Well, there's
I also nearly called them stirrups.
Oh, they're super stiff. See, now I like that.
See, my thing is like I can't honestly tell you, because memories are funny things. I can't tell you if these toys felt that stiff when we first opened them. I recall them not feeling that stiff.
Yeah.
So this is definitely like the course of time. I feel that's taken up there, but I could be wrong. I think the oldest I was when I bought my last G.I. Joe in my youth, I think I was 12, maybe 13 was the last time I bought a new G.I. Joe, and I think that was the Target from Star Brigade.
Right.
You uncarded a general flag.
I did, but I mean that was done recently. Yeah. So I don't know.
Things were slightly more tolerant. By 1992, the figures were being made with certain tolerances in mind. There are a lot of other factors to consider when you're thinking about, jogging your memory back to how we were back in the day, because you have to bear in mind we were kids and we would manipulate them with reckless abandon straight out of the package.
I'm so nervous about that elbow joint. I'm just like, it's super tight, and I'm just like, I don't want to force it.
I have yet to see elbow cracks on any of the Z kids. Zartan, Zorana, and Xandar. Because of their color change feature, the plastic is the more gummy variety. So elbow cracks and broken thumbs, I think, are less likely to occur, if at all.
Yeah.
So when I got Xander, he had an O-ring issue immediately, and I fought that screw for a long time until I had to go online, and I learned he has the connected torso. I was like, oh well, and I had already kind of messed up the backing, so I had to learn the hard way, and then I had to go on, and someone had to point out he had to cut through the file through the side for that gap to fix it. So
it's a process.
Yeah.
To be fair, I tested that process on Xandar before I did it to Serrano, so that should tell you which one of the two I like more.
Yeah. So what's the tell of a good O-ring without yanking it?
If
Any thoughts on that?
you see how I'm shaking mine,
Yeah.
and his hips don't swing, he's like, this is his first time in Latin class. Yeah, that's a good O-ring.
That's the
Electric
test.
boogaloo.
And when the O-ring is going bad, they can automatically cha-cha or mambo.
Yeah, she's pretty loose-hipped.
Okay, well that's entirely age.
Mm.
Though it's astonishing to me that I have with me right now figures that I know have never had their O-rings changed, and they are of her vintage, and I'm like, that is incredible. How is it this? Certain rubber seems immortal.
It's amazing,
Maybe
right?
being in the dry environment that I'm currently in will shorten its shelf life, but I mean it survived to this point. Like, so I don't think anyone's doctored this. No one's replaced her O-ring.
So in a weird twist, I've got a bit of a question for Steven, actually. In a weird twist for this episode.
Twist it.
Well, actually, I never realized how like hectic the bumps are on the Alley Viper's back. Look at that. He's like,
Quilted.
Yeah, look at that. It's like they're quite like, it's like I'm worried that the dude's got a bit of scoliosis. Anyway, moving right into the question that I have. And scoliosis, no laughing matter. It's not fun. But yeah, you see, there's a crack on his elbow here.
Yes.
Okay. So Steve, you got a wonderful way of fixing this, which I haven't yet tried yet, because I can't remember, is it baking soda or flour?
Not flour. It's got to be finer than that.
Okay.
I use tapioca flour as my filler, but any really fine powdery substance.
Okay.
Not cocaine.
Well, it's just too expensive.
Yeah, exactly.
But
who
okay,
you gonna give that to, Headman? So Roadblock here is, oh man, my lighting is terrible. But Roadblock here is sporting one of my. This isn't my fix. This is Toy Polloy's.
Yeah, I mean, like, credits where it's due. It's just I called it your fix because I heard it from you first, believe it or not. So
yeah, this is fail.
So I'm not familiar with that. Can you explain what that is? What you're talking about? I see the crack, but what is it you do? You make a little powder and water concoction and paste it together?
I believe the technique is to put super glue in there and then you dust it.
Okay.
But
the crack I mean, Toy Polloy goes as far as to like bend the elbow back ever so slightly so that the crack widens a little bit more, and then you take essentially the tiniest drop of super glue on a pinhead and just work it into that crack, smooth it into that crack,
right?
Work
And
it
then
into the
using the sort of the capillary action of the crack, it should kind of draw it down into it. That's the first phase. The next phase is taking a very, very modest amount of whatever your filler is. As I say, tapioca starch and my cornstarch is another perfect substitute.
Oh, cool.
And just
I've heard that, yeah.
Just dusting it ever so slightly, and you can pat it in because it will immediately bind the super glue. And the super glue will no longer have any kind of
so it's basically
stickiness.
it's a kicker. Yeah. It's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
zip kicker, but careful with zip kicker because zip kicker can actually melt the part because of the reaction being so quick. Just saying.
What you've got then is perhaps a sort of a slight mound. The crack is filled. You can still see where the seam is, but there's no longer you can run your thumb across it and no longer detect a crack. But what you will detect is the lump of the super glue and filler. Then, if you really want to get detailed, you can buff that down so that it's then smooth and flush.
Wow.
And the final step, if you're a real stickler, is find a paint match and Paul, you'll know about feathering.
Point that out.
You want to match the paint and then kind of feather it outwards so that it's a seamless gradient between where you've painted over and where you're using the actual plastic color. And getting that exact satin gloss finish, like that's next level shit. But for a casual Joe fan who is concerned about the deterioration of these cracks, because living with it is one thing, but having it in a position where it might get worse over time and eventually just shear apart, that's tragic, and that can be stopped and prevented. So I would suggest, addressing the cracks sooner rather than later. Just get as I say, the teeniest amount of super glue. I don't even use a pinhead. I use a very thin piece of paper, like a receipt paper, and then I would just kind of run the edge of the receipt paper through a bit of super glue that I've dropped onto a pallet or a piece of cardboard. So you got a little reservoir of super glue. You just knife that receipt through it, and then use that to just run it.
Right.
Run it so very gently over the crack and into the crack.
I was black and blue, but then I got some glue.
My biggest success story for that would be the Steel Brigade figure, and I did a video on that with a before and after. I think maybe it was just an after. But anyways, I get nice and close with the camera, a lot closer than I can get with this bloody webcam. So,
right.
So you can see the effect.
Am I going to have to do the same kind of a trick as your Storm Shadow to fix the O-ring on that one with the sealed?
No, her two halves are not sonic welded together.
Oh, they're not? Oh, I thought they both were.
She has adhesive joining her, and so does Xandar and Zartan. So those are...
Oh, but the adhesive is that's the thing. So I can...
But they're infinitely easier fixes than the bloody Ninja Force.
This is
my big issue with the internet. Like, everyone would always quote the Zartan situation to me. And I'm like, no, but Ninja Force guys are different. Anyways, with Zorana, if you wanted to change her O-ring, I would suggest getting in there with a blade. The best spot to get to work into a blade would be on her shoulders, just above the shoulder joints, because that's perhaps the
biggest gap,
shortest bit of adhesive. So
if you get a blade
in there,
you
can then work her head side to side to assist in just breaking up that glue. The problem with getting a blade into her side, sort of the lower torso, is that they're two little pins that you run the risk of slicing through.
That's right.
So,
and I think I ran into that when I
work
did
your way down.
I think I did cut one of those when I did him, and I think this is where I had where I was fighting with that screw, having no idea what was going on. That I didn't know he had adhesive. I think that's where I think I widened, because his backpack is super loose.
I would advise.
You live and learn, my friend.
That's where I had that idea. Go ahead.
I don't disagree with the neck. Although if you are a little bit scared of going in at the neck with that, I was lucky. My Serana, she became 2 half Seranas, so I could actually start from the inside. So I could actually work those lines from the inside.
On the side?
Yeah, from the inside. So if you guys, So with the Joe, I mean anybody who has G.I. Joes know this, but the O-ring.
Yeah,
the little circular cavity inside here. So I mean, she was 2 half Seranas, so I could actually just work from the inside. That was great, because then I didn't have to worry about any sort of cosmetic damage.
So just stab some kind of.
You'll have to sacrifice the current O-ring. You could.
The O-ring will die.
I'm not gonna do it. But you're saying stab the shaft into the back, kind of work the.
Listen, if I wouldn't fix that once,
blade in there and just try and cut from the inside. At least that way you won't score the outside of the figure, which is
also a nice place to practice. But I'm not. I mean that in a smart way. In that, if you make any mistakes up here on the neck area, it's going to be visible. If they're made underneath there, it's invisible. And once again, like, you know, if you're gonna sell it, be responsible and tell people whatever's. But sorry, it's like feels like a disclaimer that we have to make. But yeah, it's a great place to practice. You know, I mean, it's like any hobby advice is always paint it on something that you're not going to see or on some test plastic.
Right. So in the old days, it was the accessories were pretty easy. They were just popped in the bubble. I guess 90s is when they started doing the weapon trees, like the one you have right there, Paul. Do you guys have thoughts? I used to get like toenail clippers and clip the little tabs.
Totally cool.
That's all I thought of. Ninja Turtles did that too.
That's second prize. I would say that the three things I've used to pull those off. More recently, I've used side cutters from model kits, and I'll show you guys what one of those looks like in a second. If people aren't familiar with that,
like you would when you were a kid. We didn't have access to these dainty
tools.
You
would just twist it.
You just twist.
But
then if you had one that had
like you did last summer, but so I like to use something like this, which is a pair of side cutters. These ones are a little bit more hardcore, but I actually use a slightly bigger pair. Otherwise, if you are somebody that cares about your nails and you happen to own a cuticle trimmer, which is similar to a pair of side cutters, those work very well. I used to steal my mother's all the time when I was a kid to do that.
She's like, why don't these work as well?
Well, no, they actually work pretty good. They're pretty
for
good
you,
at
but
even
not for her nails.
And
of course, Paul had the best cuticles in town.
And actually, I never knew what they were for. I was just like, oh, this is like a model knife, and I just took it. And then obviously the nail clippers. Nail clippers are actually great. I normally like tell people to use nail clippers for like their first Gundam kits as well, because side cutters are expensive.
When you would twist them to get them off, you would start the color, the plastic would start lightening. It would just change the color, distort the color a little bit. But then you had some of them where there'd be a attachment here and an attachment there, so you couldn't get. You'd have to fight one off, and then you could twist the other one off, and it was a hassle.
I remember as a kid chewing them off as well, like getting there. And
of course, Paul.
Yeah. And you like bend them, trying kind of wear it down a little bit. But I tell you what, I would rather deal with a weapons tree than this nonsense where you have guns that are into the plastic.
I hate that so much.
It's ridiculous. It's not a piece of
I
tape
hate
that can
it
take the barrel out.
So much.
Oh,
how did they get them in the first place? Do they just bend them aggressively?
Great question.
It's not like the plastic is vacuum molded around the weapon.
No, it's surely not.
So I mean, I can cut that piece off, but it's like
why can't they just?
Already bent. However they've got it in there, it's already bent to start with.
Exactly. That's why I hate it. I just hate it. I hate it so much. Like, hate is the word.
Hate's the word.
I also really hate it. See, I'm full of it. When they use those plastic things to like strap the figure to the plastic,
the little clips on the back,
to the plastic. Yeah, I hate that.
Are you talking about those little translucent bands?
Yeah, sometimes they those translucent silicone bands, or sometimes they like those horrible plastic things. I hate them because, firstly, like you want to open the damn thing at the coffee shop or in the car or whatever. You know what I mean? You just bought the figure. You don't want to wait till you got home to like open it. You want to play with it now.
Right.
And you're sitting there and you're like, and
it's like bending the plastic in. It's like cutting into the plastic on.
Or you're sitting there with like
cutting
car
into your
keys and
fingertips.
Like,
honestly, the creases in my digits have actually drawn blood. Like trying to.
Yeah. And sometimes even if you get a pair of scissors, sometimes it's so tight to plastic that the only way you're like almost cutting into your figure to get the blade.
It's like the scissors kind of go. Nope.
Yeah.
It's like rock, paper, scissors, packaging string.
Right.
You know?
There is one worse thing than that, Paul, and that is if you have a figure that has a cape of some kind, and the cape is thread through this sharp plastic in the back, and the only way to get it out is to peel it forward.
You have to like feed it through. You like
Yeah, and then you're risking. You're worried it's going to start fraying. Or what's worse is if it's like a Batman figure or something, it's a plastic cape that goes in and it's connected. So now you're like, it's not going to give to pull the plastic through the packaging. So you're like, oh.
Or sometimes you have that thing where you get it out of the packaging and then Batman's cape is like this for a really long time.
Yeah, or it has little notches on the corners right here. Cut off from the plastic. Oh boy.
You guys mentioned like a little bit of painting and a little bit of that gloss finish, and I did actually bring a whole bunch of stuff to my desk here just to talk about it, because I know we're not customizing figures, but some cool things that like have helped me, and I don't know why I can't find my torch that I've been fixing.
I mean, even if you're not customizing it, I mean, you still have figures that you have paint. Let's see, that's coming up. Where even if you get a new vintage figure, you still want to just touch up the colors that are already there. So
I've got a few options for guys. I mean, and these are the safe options. I'm gonna go from like the safest stuff to the more sort of chemical, dangerous stuff.
Options like for guys, so it won't work on.
No, man. Like, yeah, like so this paint is great because you can use it without having to wear a mask, which is cool, and you can have it around your kids, and it's non-toxic. This is of course Vallejo or Vallejo, if you prefer. That's usually how you'll see it in the stores, is Model Air. I like this line. It's called the Mecha Color line, mostly because, well, it's quite durable. The other line that is also really great is the Game Color stuff and the Game Air, because this is designed for miniatures that are handled all the time. So this stuff is quite robust, and it's got a pretty good color library. So you can find something that's very close to the colors used on your Joes. Or you'll have, because Vallejo is like an arts company, an art supplies company, you'll find, approximations or ways to make that color yourself, which is great. Another alternative, and I'm sure there's guys watching this going, but what about Citadel Paints? Well, yes, the unicorn urine that is mixed with paint and sold to Citadel.
Did you say unicorn urine?
I say unicorn urine, and the reason I say this is because it must be, because that's why they price it. I mean, this is a 12 ml bottle or a 4-ounce bottle. Okay. Yeah. In South Africa, they sell these for like 60, sometimes 70 rand, which is often 30 rand more expensive than these. And these, are, in my opinion, are better paints. But we can save that debate for another comment thread.
I recently, or a couple of years ago, a friend of mine started to get me painting like Warhammer figures and War Machine kind of stuff. And the Citadel brand, he said that's like the big one, but like it's not as good as the other one. And I can't remember the names, like P5 or something like that. I don't remember what it is.
Oh yeah, no, there's the P52 colors. Yeah, that's why that's like a whole thing. Yeah, I just like Citadel. I mean, I like Citadel. Don't get me wrong. It's cool and it's great for like Warhammer stuff, especially if you're trying to color code it with their stuff. And it is actually good paint. Like it feels right. It feels great and fun to paint with. But
they're not a sponsor, Paul. So
they're not a sponsor. But that's why I'm putting them up against everybody. I like Vallejo. I think Vallejo or Vallejo, however you pronounce it properly, is the way to go. I also like to use this stuff. It's called G paint. This is a Gundam paint. This is a pre-mixed lacquer, so you can take it straight out of the bottle and put it on a figure. The way they sell this stuff is that you only get it in primary colors, so you get black, white, then you get green, yellow, red, and blue, and also like a metallic gray. What's cool about, and then you mix your own colors, and if you can use a combination of online web apps and whatever's. You can take photos with your phone, you can build a color swatch, then you'll know exactly how much this stuff to mix to get the exact color if you want to be really anal retentive. Plus this stuff is a lacquer based, which means, and it's tough. This stuff is very, very tough. And it's awesome. I'll give you an example. That's sprayed on a spoon. Shiny, and that's
a good Cobra Commander helmet right there.
It's already off that, and then to get that shininess, I use this product by Vallejo. Yay, see, Vallejo should be sending me money. Send me money, Vallejo. Maybe it's because I'm not pronouncing your name properly. But the polyurethane satin varnishes are pretty good, as is their metal varnish. It's also very good. Cool. It's called metal varnish because it's designed to not dull metallic finishes. So this is really great if you want to protect, like, once you've repainted some gold or silver on a Cobra Commander or something.
Right.
Hit a bit of this over it with a brush. This stuff is tough, but let it cure for the full 24 hours. Because, I mean, it basically ends up looking like that. This is the polycarbonate clear coat.
Beautiful. And that looks beautiful. That really does.
And that's what they use for, like, motorbike helmets and stuff, if you guys are wondering.
Yeah.
So
Steve, you've mentioned in your podcast before that you like that when you discovered the Sharpie metallic pens, does that go beyond, or have you played with like other colors as well besides black? Have you like explored that a little bit, or is it just the metallics that you like?
Yeah, to be honest, I don't know how I'd feel about using marker for other paint colors, but spot treatment on metallic paint apps, it's so useful because the metallic G.I. Joe's metallic paints are notorious for rubbing away, and typically they're points that protrude, which naturally then get a lot of handling. So those two factors combine to make them very problematic on most figures. In fact, it's extremely problematic on figures that are entirely covered in metallic paint, like Mr. Battle Armor Cobra Commander here. This guy was showing a lot of blue plastic, particularly like the back of the helmet. That's a rubbing point. The facade is a huge point of rub. Embarrassingly enough, his crotch was completely blue, but a silver Sharpie that sorted him out. And you can kind of be as detailed with it as you need to be, because it comes to a nice point, and the match is good. Like whatever silver they were using in the factory back in 86, 87, that Sharpie was an adequate enough match for my standards. And I'm shooting these guys pretty close up.
Dude, hold that up again. That lighting looks so cool on your Battle Armor Cobra Commander. Sorry,
it does look good.
I'm being such a punk. Oh, that looks so great.
Yeah.
Once a man. So yeah, his chest has seen some action. Like since touching him up, I have used this guy for 2 episodes of Play Motion, and the Sharpie, because I haven't sealed it with anything, has sort of rubbed on his chest.
Yeah.
But I quite like that. It gives it a weathering almost.
Yeah.
So trust me, he's a lot better than he was.
Yeah. So speaking of weather, go ahead, Paul. What were you gonna say?
Oh no, I was gonna say, like guys, I'm hoping that you're watching this episode and maybe you've just started collecting, because Tim, that's kind of what we're going for. Just know that metallic colors do, just as a rule, rub off easier. The pigment is bigger. It doesn't settle the same way other stuff does. It's why you do need to seal it. Steven mentioned now he hasn't sealed it with anything. So yeah, the Sharpie markers, that's actually a fantastic option. But understand that it could happen. It's going to wipe off. And don't go and like put a whole bunch of silver stuff on your dudes and be like, and then it wipes off and be like, damn that, Steven!
Well, I remember as a kid using markers to like bloody up Joker's face or making, because they had all those different versions of Batman I'd like, but they're not black and I want them black, so I'd start coloring a lot of them black, and it did, and then it starts coming up. Yeah. But the only one that I've really messed with is I had a like a scratch or something. Oh no, I know what it was. Those Troop Builder Cobra Vipers that the Toys R Us ones that they had in the 2000s, and they always had the one with the gold mask, and then they had all the silver.
The Viper Pit 2005.
I was like, why do I want that? So I got a marker, and this was like this last year, and not a marker. I got paint to do it, but I cleared the mask. But I'm like, even if I did a marker, because that was before I heard Steve's comment, because I would have been curious to try that because it's been a lot faster. But the face of the Viper doesn't get a lot of touch, so it's not handled very often. So I was like, that was an easy thing, and the blend was perfect. You couldn't. I laid them out there. I was like, couldn't tell which one was which. And I had like 2 or 3 of those. I have a whole bucket full of Vipers, and I hated having the 3 gold, because when you put them in formations, having that one by itself, I was like, and I'm like, I don't need a commander. There's other characters that can lead the forces, So or a squad leader.
It's awkward. the gold. Now that I think about it, better to have them all with silver faceplates. I mean, they're kind of taking after their leader, aren't they? The mirror face.
Yeah, exactly. And they don't.
Did
it doesn't
you
look the colors, it
did
doesn't
you
look
use
good.
a brush to brush it on?
Yeah.
And you were able to sort of do it smoothly enough without brush strokes being evident?
Yeah.
Well, Tim, that's a testimony to your skill, man.
I played with it a little. I learned how to do a little. There's some basic stuff. You know, getting the brush. Oh, I got nothing here. Oh, so like this, you know, there's the key there is when you have, you know, if this was a face mask and you have the ridge on the side of the helmet, you know, getting your brush to go up against but not up the wall around. Does that make sense? You know what I'm saying? So you're getting the surface pushing it down and not getting a piece so you don't have like a chip of metal or copper on the corner. But I hadn't played with it, but and black Sharpie to like clean up boots, like this Chuckles broken peg. I was like, I never would notice. I would never pay attention to that because I don't use the pegs on vehicles anyway. Because you guys are scared about it now.
In future with paint stuff, if you're aware of the kind of paint that you're using, so if you're using like an acrylic paint, you can use once again Vallejo. But I like their Airbrush Cleaner. It's actually really, really useful if you put it on a Q-tip. And if you do mess up, if you are painting something with acrylic paint and you do make a huge mess up, especially when you're like repairing a G.I. Joe, you can just use a little bit of that stuff on the edge of a Q-tip and just rub off that extra mark that you made. And sometimes, you know, that can actually be really beneficial because you could actually just be quite messy and paint the whole thing. Because cleaning it up is actually easier to do than trying to paint it on properly. And that's kind of a skill, like knowing when it's easier to be precise and when it's easier to be imprecise.
And washing. I'm not proficient in washing. I don't know if you'd really want to wash a G.I. Joe, but like that does get
not vintage.
No,
I think it looks like properly ugly when people do washes on vintage figures. I say that just because it, once again, I feel like it elevates the figure. It takes the figure to a point where I don't think it's supposed to go. Does that make sense? Like
vintage orange figures made no secret of the fact that they were toys.
Yeah,
they weren't trying to be hyper realistic, you know, with flesh tones that were sort of multi-tonal, with light and shade. That's just one example. Like armor that had kind of depth and shading to it that you would get from a wash. That wasn't what Vintage Joe was about.
But then you'll see somebody like, you know, and I always punt these two gentlemen, but you'll see somebody like Bart Simon, or you'll look at like Jim Godfrey's customs of their G.I. Joes, of their modern era figures, for example. And then you see like, wow, a wash works on a modern era figure. A wash, you know, that kind of stuff works on a modern era Joe, or should I say 4-inch Joe, or whatever.
Because there's a lot more detail than the textures and their pieces, their weapons, their vests, their gear. There's a lot more where you could do a wash on there and puts that little grit, that dirt into it. The elements are in there. I do want to talk about that because I've never done a toy review because I don't do it. You guys do a good enough job, but I loved the new. I think this is the new one. Because they had a black one in the 2000 whatevers that I got. Is this a new one? Can you identify?
Yeah, that looks pretty new to me. The stickers look gorgeous.
Well,
is there a slot on the top of the canopy? An open sort of.
Yes.
Yeah, that would be the
retro newest one, the one from last year, the retro. Okay. Because there was one. They had black ones that had a different number.
There's a blue one as well, I believe.
Yeah, so that's what I want to talk about. This hideous thing. So I bought, and I put on your wall. I have like a closet with like 8 or 9 boxed black ones for, you know, future resale or whatever. And I have integrity as a shopper. I am not a scalper. I would never do that. But for me, it's an investment. If there was like 3 of them on the shelf, I would take one, leave the others or whatever. And I would slowly hit one, get it, right? And then some people are like, oh, you'll never get back. I disagree. These things are slick enough. In a few years from now, people are going to want these if they didn't get a chance to build them up now, because these weren't as common as now these. And this is a piece of crap. So I wanted to ask you, a couple of things that are dumb to me. I'll do a little mini review. Like, why would they change some of the stickers? Like the little headlight things. Trying to line them up.
Yeah,
there.
that bugs me.
What is that? You know, it's like they're changing the grill or the technology. This one looks like headlights or whatever. What is this? You know what I mean? And it's like, why would they change?
Michael.
Why would let's say there was a plant where Cobra was manufacturing these, right? They were putting them together, or Destro was, whatever, and like they changed things like the stickers for the Viper, these little Viper stickers, right? Or the Hiss
Armored Division,
tank.
whatever.
Yeah.
So like, what did they have some marketing meeting and they decided that some of the stickers worked? You know, like they decided they wanted to change the logo for that year and stuff. I'm like, why is it so different? Why is it so complicated to not just have the same thing? And why can't the blueprints tell you exactly where they're supposed to go to make it consistent? It just drives me nuts. The Striker, the Off Striker.
That's because
thing.
the manual in the retro box is the manual from the 25th anniversary. His tank.
Oh no,
which is
they don't have
which is using
anymore. It's terrible. The paraphernalia has been lost.
Gone.
And on that that's sort of the second release, his tank, your favorite, it's got a wash on the tracks.
So let's talk about that. What do you think about that?
On vehicles, it doesn't bug me too
when
much.
They do that?
I don't like it. Like I don't like that because it tells me I'm only allowed to play with it in the mud. That's what bugs me about it. Yeah.
That's it. If I have a whole row of these uniform on my carpet or whatever, and like I have them coming up on a whatever, any elements I want, you know, I don't like it. It's like, well, this one's been through the mud and they didn't give it a wash before they got to the metallic base, you know, where G.I. Joe's at, or whatever, or if it is in the jungle. Oh, I mean, that's not a problem, but it's just it's stupid because it limits it. It looks decent, but only if I wanted that there, not for a Hiss. Maybe if you had like an Off Striker, maybe that kind of, you know, or a vehicle that makes more sense that it would be it's a jungle or a mud specific vehicle, but this could go anywhere and I hate it. I don't like that they make that decision for me. And why don't they do that with,
it should be a blank canvas for you to play with.
Right.
You should be the one to decide.
Right.
Yeah, I agree.
Or if I had an Arctic vehicle, fine, that should have some cool snow paint, you know, treading on there. Does that even exist, Steve? Do the Arctic vehicles even have snow paint? I mean, I don't even know if they did this very much in the old days.
They did the Arctic Hiss, but I think the tracks were clean
black,
yeah.
Right?
because they put a paint app on the central portion. Like, you know, it has all those kind of like hatches set into the middle of the track. I think the Arctic Hiss did those up in a kind of a.
That's a cool Hiss, by the way. Tim,
it's
if
beautiful.
you see one and it's reasonable, grab one because it's cool. It's actually worth getting.
The original Hiss.
The Arctic one, yeah.
The cool. Arctic one, yeah.
Also, just something to mention, like, on the blueprints of the retro Hiss, there's details on those blueprints that don't exist on the retro Hiss figure on the toy, which that infuriates me.
Oh, it's so lazy.
Because when you're trying to place the stickers, you're trying to do it in relation to something that's there, that's not actually there. But the vintage, I believe, does have those details.
And it's easier for me to look at the box instead of look at the actual instructions to see what it looks like, because I'm a visual guy anyway. But
nowadays you have the blueprints, the label instructions sheet, the box, and then whatever the online resource you happen to select, be it a review on YouTube, jojo.com, 3D Joes. Who do you listen to? Everyone's got a different sample, it seems.
And because they changed the stickers, you can't even keep it uniform with ones that you've had before, because these ones don't match these. And the older black ones that I only had 3 of them. Well, that's what it was. They had gray. I think.
Yeah, although I'm lucky. Yeah, because I was gonna say my Hiss, my 25th anniversary Hiss that I got from a friend of mine who bought it for me in Florida years ago. Lives at my folks' place, and the retro one lives here, so I stick it up the retro one here, as per like after the unboxing that I did for it on my birthday. Then I went to my folks' place, and I looked at my Hiss there, and thankfully the stickers are the same. Nice. I think it's just, instead of it being a 788, it's another number. So
see, I wish that was a thing. I wish you could get. I mean, I know you can. People make them, and you can.
Toy hacks
online. But yeah, if you had if they just had like a 1 through 9, or whatever, or even just a few numbers that you can make up your own numbers instead of they're all.
G.I. Joe did do that.
I don't like that because it individuates the numbers, and if they slightly offset.
Oh, that's true. That's fair. I've done pricing on.
Yeah, but there's tricks to doing that. You can make templates, Yeah. And also, there is a precedent in the military where, like especially in World War II when they were stenciling these things, that a lot of them were a little off, or like a bit too left, or a bit too right, or a bit higher or lower, or whatever.
Yeah.
So
no.
But so I hear you, Steve. I hear you.
Curious about how OCD you get with the stickers, because I got that stupid the mobile command base for the G.I. Joe movie that you use for the slaughterhouse.
Oh yeah.
I never put those stickers on there because it's like a freaking book full of them. It's ridiculous, and I'm like, and I hated the thing anyway. I was like, this is not worth the time it would take me to put those on there. And some of the stickers were pretty cool. But
they're amazing stickers.
Yeah, there's some great ones in there, but I'm like, I just don't have the energy to waste them on this hunk of garbage plastic. But when you get those,
come on, Tim.
We can review that.
If you've got the time, and it will take a chunk of your time, but it just comes alive.
It will elevate it for you.
It comes to life when you have that added detail. What was just a blank flat piece of plastic is now screen with a display. Like the med bay, the communication center.
It would take a lot to get me to do it.
But for the record, with all those like sort of etchings and like chevrons and caution sort of, so good.
And
if it's any consolation, I almost bought the mobile command pit thing, whatever's.
Yeah.
I nearly bought that, and it was because of a review that I'd seen on General's Joe's. And it's because of the stickers. It's because of seeing the stickers on it. That was the straw that broke the camel's back.
That's what got it for you.
Yeah. And then I saw the APC. It's called the Rhino. And then it destroyed the MCC in my eye, or that mobile pit in my eyes. Yeah. So then I got the Rhino instead.
I think I was telling you, Paul. I had an opportunity to buy this when the Spy Troops did the mobile command base. The MOBAT, right? Is that what it was?
The MCC, yes.
The MCC.
They did a redo of it because I didn't have access to it. And there was one, I finally had money for it. It was on clearance. It was like $50 or whatever at Toys R Us. And I was like, I'll come back and get it tomorrow. And then it was gone. I never saw it again. So when the movie version came out, I was like, this is awesome. It was like so much bigger. And I was so excited. And I got it home and I was like, this is a piece of crap. But anyway, decals.
Sorry.
So how OCD or how concerned you guys get? Because I know you guys get a lot of vehicles and you mentioned them when they already have the stickers on there. If they're in the wrong place, how much does that really bug you? Is it something you're going to take them off and then replace them with custom stickers, or what are your thoughts on that?
I have a Condor at home that is desperate for me to change its stickers, and that is honestly the one vehicle, the Condor and my Night Raven. Just because the Night Raven stickers are old and they got a bit of bubbling in them.
Yeah.
So I'd say my Condor, my Night Raven. Who else? Nope, those would. Oh, and one or two of my Tiger Force vehicles. I just don't like that sometimes the mouse has been put upside down on them. But for the most part, I don't mind it. I kind of like it. And I've grown to like it because of. I want to say I've grown to like it.
Off and
I think I was halfway there. I think I was like halfway there. I was like, I'm going to go and buy a whole bunch of stuff from, I think they were called Cobra stickers back in the day, but now it's like Toy Hacks. I was like, I'm going to buy all of this stuff. And then Steven kind of swayed me on the other side of, no, it's actually cool. It gives a little bit more character. It's more played with, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, that was you. You said that. And
character assassination. I'm being misquoted here.
Well, misquoted definitely. But the sentiment is very much the same. Like,
wasn't it more along the lines of like, where do you stop? This is a slippery slope. Like, if you're the kind of collector who wants museum piece quality to your collection, by all means, strip off every last sticker of every vehicle you own, bath them in soapy water, get the residue off, get it squeaky clean, like it just rolled off the factory line.
Right. Right.
And then get reproduction stickers for all of them and meticulously apply them to the clean plastic. You want to make sure that plastic has no dust, residue, oil. It's got to be squeaky clean for those new stickers to adhere perfectly without any bubbling, no hair underneath, nothing.
Right.
But where do you stop? Because that is a huge undertaking. One sticker sheet is affordable enough, but dozens and dozens of repro sticker sheets starts adding up, and that's money that could be better served by adding to your collection in more material ways. Like, it depends on what you value as a collector. Do you want museum quality toys? Do you want toys that you can drag through the mud? I'm in the latter camp, so the way the stickers look when that toy came to me is the way they shall remain. Unfortunately, I have very few OCD ticks when it comes to these toys. I think I acknowledge that they are used, and the fact that they're used means that sometimes the sticker's a little bit dodgy or offset, but it just makes it that much more inviting for play. Because I don't care that a sticker might get damaged in play, or get a bit scratched, or have a little bit of a crease to it, or a little bit of water damage. Like, or if I was like the vehicles that I personally have stickered very well, I feel less inclined to play with, roughly, because if it goes for a tumble and gets a little bit of a scratch from a stone on the sticker, and the print is then scarred, like that will frustrate me and annoy me and make work on my OCD a lot more than toys that already have sticker issues from the off. So
when you get a new vehicle, do you enjoy if there's a lot of stickers, or are you just like frustrated? Just because it's going to be a lot of meticulous work, because you're going to have to put them on correctly. Because it's new to you. It's
becoming a rarer and rarer experience. The last time I did it was, in fact, for one of those retro hisses. Yeah. And I must admit, I was a bit anxious doing it, because if you do misalign a sticker, and the worst is, you get the one side great, and then you have to repeat your efforts on the other side.
Yeah, you're like, where did I put the circle? And on this side, you have to look at the lining and the rivets and everything. You're like, where's the right
masking tape?
Stressful. And
I'm like that.
If you cock it up, it's going to scratch at you. It's going to, until you give in and you're like, oh, okay, I'll peel it and try it again. Yeah.
And now that there's a corner, the adhesive is coming loose.
Inevitably, it's a mistake to peel and reapply. That's when you go onto Cobra stickers or toy hacks, and you start scrolling, thinking, I've got to buy this sheet. I've got to correct my mistake.
So a trick for that is a bit of a model building trick as well. You just use a bit of masking tape and a pencil, and you can line up where it is. You can make a template, and then you just take it to the other side.
What, directly onto the toy?
Yeah, what you do is you masking tape onto the toy, and you decide, okay, that's cool. That's you make a pencil line or whatever is where you want it to be.
You're determining like how far a sticker is, and then you
you can determine how far it's meant to be, and you've got your reference point. What I like to do is put it to a bit of the side there, and then just trace it a little bit, just so I can sort of get the point. I can be quite anal with that, actually.
Now, I would say that's overstepping its welcome. That's making this, as anxiety-inducing as it already is, to go to those lengths, saps it of even the fun. But
for the his tank, I did that. It was fine for the his tank, but for my Vamp 4x4
and little pencil markings. Oh,
dude, I just had it there. It's why I keep my model box and stuff in the coffee table in the lounge with me, so that when I have to do stuff like that.
I'm not as stressed as the positioning of it, because I can kind of eyeball it. And if I start playing with them, even if I have a bunch of them that are that I try to get identical, I don't even notice it. I don't even pay attention to where the sticker is unless I'm looking at it. What gets me is this kind of stuff where they're deep inside something, where it's you have to get it in a right spot.
That was fun. I remember that one.
Oh, I hate that. And it's I would rather just not have that sticker. And that's the thing. Sometimes I don't even put all of the stickers on there, because it's I just get get my flags and Cobra sigils and things on there.
I just hate how shiny those stickers are on the retro line.
Yeah, especially if you have a black black piece and you're putting a black sticker on it that you won't even be able to see it anyway. It's so frustrating.
I hate that. I said that a lot this episode, but I hate that. I just don't like the shininess because when you like try to take a photo of it, that shininess of the sticker like takes you right out. It destroys the illusion.
It's like the reverse of matte lines in composite shots in retro film. Like Star Wars 1977, you can see the outline around the Falcon or the Star Destroyers. Here it's the reverse thing. It's like these glossy borders that always anytime you take a picture of it, it's like, whoa, okay, that's definitely a sticker.
So I just want to kind of wrapping up a little bit. I want to hear a little bit about what you guys do though with your playing with your toys in environment, because you're also being careful in preservation of them. So when you take them out Steve, you even just mentioned, taking apart a vehicle. I know you weren't talking about that's what you do, but if you were to wash a vehicle, do you have like water that gets trapped on the inside? I mean, we were kids playing with these toys like in bathtubs and things like that. Just water and inevitable mildew probably in them. Like when you're taking them out playing in swamp water or in the ocean, like what do you have a process to like deal with that afterwards? You just rinse it really good and let it go, let it dry,
flush everything with fresh water and let it dry really well.
This is my technique.
I've kind of run the gamuts of like the single figure all the way up to the USS Flag, and the element that is common to all of them is just fresh water. Running fresh water, just get the salt off, get the swamp off, get the stink off. Just wash it, spray it, hose it till it's clean, clear, and smelling squeaky clean.
Do you take vehicles apart to do it?
Well, the Flag, fortunately, is completely modular. There was no ways I was going to transport it in its fixed configuration. So, the deck elements, you pull them apart. The tower, you pull it off. And I just put it all on the lawn.
Put it upside down in your mom's pool. Just don't get a little chlorine instead of the.
Well, look, pool water is just as dangerous as seawater. I made the mistake early on in crewing up my Cobra Bug, playing with it in the pool, and then never taking the figures out. All of their screws are completely grossly rusted. Their T-bars are gritted up with a white buildup, which you can't even sand those things clean. It's like it's actually infiltrated into the metal.
It's crystallized because of the chlorine in the water.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So
did you not rinse? Did you not clean them off at that time? Were you not careful about
adequately?
When you did your review, you're talking about, right?
There's no ways you could if you rinsed it, even if you rinsed it completely, as consistently as possible, as thoroughly as possible. If you leave the figures in their seats, they're not adequately drying.
Yeah, because
everything needs to be opened up, figures taken out. I always dry my figures like that, arms behind them, so that water can run out of the back screw. I would also stick a bit of tissue paper into that back screw and twist it, because the tissue paper is very absorbent, and also will kind of mold into all the little cavities in the screw to kind of just wick the water away, and then air drying him so that he's got airflow above and below.
So you'll just soak. You don't necessarily take it all the way apart.
No.
Nah. What about helmets?
If you hit it with fresh water soon enough after, very nice, Paul. If you hit it with fresh water soon enough after exposure to garbage water, salt water, swamp water, whatever, you can sufficiently rinse out all the gack.
What about sand in your vehicles?
Water is also your friend, but you might need a little bit more focused pressure, particularly vehicle wheels and axles. You need to flush that sand out, and the best way to do it is just kind of have a constant, steady stream of water, like right into the wheel, and spin it until you feel no grit, and then
you mentioned
then you're back.
What was the last review? That other random vehicle you just did? The
Mudbuster.
Yeah, that was a really fun review, by the way. I like when you just like threw it together, no script.
Easy enough. Bang it out.
Yeah. You should bust out some more of those, because those are easy, I think. The ones that you don't want to go into all the detail and the cinematography and everything. It was really fun. But you mentioned about the wheels and the axle and everything, and I was like, oh, I never even, and the squeak. You talked about your little WD-40 little trick. I was like, I never even thought about that. I never paid attention.
Yeah, plastic on plastic will generate a squeak. It's mainly caused by that white residue from all the years of friction, just kind of these parts slowly but surely, like, losing particles and that creating a friction on the joint and the contact points. WD-40 will grease it up nice and quick.
Right.
Paul, you might disagree. I mean, would that be harmful to the plastic? I always hit it with the WD-40, work it so that it's no longer squeaking, and then I will take toweling and just
dab it off.
Wick away the excess oil. In fact, soap and water as well, just to kind of strip out the oil, not leave excessive amounts of WD-40 on the plastic.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, WD-40. I mean, I've been doing a lot of like research on it recently, because I actually bought some for the home, just to use it around here at home, and also to use it to strip glue. Believe it or not. It's
the
apparently
product with
it's
1,000
plastic,
uses,
but it's actually not. It's not the best lubricant. And a lot of guys will tell you that. Like a lot of like online guys. Like
my Mudbuster says otherwise.
No, it will lubricate something, sure, but it's not the best lubricant, But hey,
for lubricating, or are you talking about for not damaging the plastic?
No, for lubricating. Like, but then again, these guys.
I mean, can you hear that?
These guys are not talking about this product as a lubricant because they're lubing up their Mudbuster or Cobra Bug wheels or whatever. They're talking about, like, a squeaky door or a fridge or whatever the hell.
Yeah. And everything you guys have talked about, there's YouTube videos and tutorials that people have done, wonderfully, other people, and, it's all out there. But it's just fun to chat with you guys, because you guys are in the grid of doing it, and it's just fun to hear, because everyone has a different style. And like Steve's mentioned, different demands or interests or goals and how they're playing, what they're working with, what they're trying to do if they get a figure or a vehicle. So hearing what you guys do with what you do with your videos on your channel, it's interesting to me. Like what the
well, some credits to you for being the scribe that you are and asking all the right questions, man.
Yeah, totally, dude.
You have probed this topic very thoroughly and gotten a lot out of us. I mean, thank you very much.
Yeah,
it's the opportunity to gab about how we treat our toys.
It's a lot of fun, because I mean I'm getting into it. I'm in the camp of playing with it. I like a little bit of stiffness, because I want to be able to work them and them not just completely just flop around in my fingers. But I understand what you're saying, Steve. There's something for it. Unless it's a ninja figure, of course you want them to be as flexible as possible. But like Sergeant Slaughter's head dangling around, I'm like, come on. That's not.
It's a big head. It's heavy, man. It's a lot of plastic.
A little neck. Yeah. That's it. And the last golden question before we wrap. Thumbs. What's the care for thumbs with the vintage hard plastic? Do you guys even bother trying to, like, putting a weapon in there? Are there certain ones you just don't even bother with?
There are weapons I won't put in thumbs anymore.
Really?
You guys saw the Alley Viper from earlier? Mm-hmm. I am too scared to put this shield in my Alley Viper's hands the way it's supposed to go. Like, I'm too scared. I actually just take the arm and I slot it through the slot at the moment, because that for me is safer. Okay, I shudder at the thought of it. Steve, what are your thoughts, man?
Who do you know is brave enough to tuck the Uzi stock
behind
into the Iron Grenadier's arm? I would say go slowly.
Yeah.
Test the waters.
Like my Lady J, I'm like,
figures'
what do I do?
tolerances
I don't know
were
what to
set.
do with that. It's like,
Oh,
and especially because it has that big, bulgy, pointed part. I'm
I
like,
would always put Lady J's javelin launcher on
The other
top
way.
of just so that you're not tucking the weapon
oh,
under
so like
her.
it's like a rocket launcher.
Yeah, I don't feel like that weapon does or is intended to be
makes sense.
tucked.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, in most instances, I would not like a weapon inserted with the buttstock on top of the arm. That's not how they're meant to be. But in the case of that javelin launcher,
That makes sense. You just solved the problem for me right there. Okay, sorry, you were saying you. So yeah, so you.
No,
you
I just think
carefully work it and leave it that way.
I would hesitate to work anything in if it's offering resistance. These toys aren't. They don't have as much give as they did when they were young. It's
Yeah.
true of us
And
all.
we still broke their thumbs when we were young as well. So.
Exactly. Yeah. But yeah, I would work within their current tolerances. So if the figure had its thumb nicely widened back in the day, well, that's fortunate. You'll be able to have a wide range of accessories for that figure. If he's got super tight grip that clearly has never had an accessory inserted into it, well, I mean, according to my toy collecting philosophy, you got the booby prize. That level of mintness is useless to me. He can't even display holdings accessories. And I mean, I don't ever want to name names, but like doing this with your action figures, it irks me when people just do that.
Oh my gosh, I've never seen that, but I would roll my eyes and cringe.
Or that. Just to be safe, you're inserting it in a inconceivable way. I mean, it's not realistic at all. The G.I. Joe was the perfect crossroads of like toyeticness and yet able to do real world cool poses.
Yeah.
It's a good hybrid. It's a good trade-off, a good compromise.
That's one fun
So
thing
yeah,
about the
Paul's
modern
Alley
one.
Viper can achieve a very realistic pose with that machine gun. That's awesome.
Yay.
You got a winner there, Paul.
He's cool.
Don't
eh?
put that shield in.
The modern ones do it, but they're not. It's not the same. I mean, it's fun, but it's and like you said,
at least it's not terrifying every time you try and put a weapon in.
That's the best thing about modern. You can just slap weapons in there. The fun part is if they will actually stay in the hand or not.
Yeah.
Because some of them are like, you know.
Well, you know what my problem with the original, when they first did the 25th anniversary, was taking out the glove to switch with a different glove, and then it would break, and then you'd have a wedge of plastic stuck in their hook hand, and I was like, well, I'm no longer excited about these.
Some of those fists had sort of the female side of the joint, so they'd have a hole in the fist, and some of them had the pin. Like, that was always maddening to me. Like, I want to use that guy's gloves with that guy who's got, one closed fist.
Yeah.
Swap them out, and it's like, oh no.
Yeah.
These don't mate.
Yeah. Wow. All right. Well, you guys, thanks for all your heads up on the behind the curtain on what you guys do a little bit, helping me introduce Zorana, birthing her into the world. That was a fun experience. She's going to get her vehicle. She's tight. Loose hips, but tight, but and she can stand by her brother. And someday I'll get a vintage Zartan. And because I had one as a kid, that's long gone. He's camouflaged away somewhere in the gardens in Hawaii somewhere. But
living out his retirement. Good spot.
Yeah. So anyway, you guys, thank you so much. I appreciate your time and coordinating this and putting some thoughts together and some premeditated ideas on what you want to talk about, what you were going to satisfy my curiosity. And it's just always a pleasure to interact with you guys. So appreciate it and love everything you do on the channel. So G.i.Joburg, and I'm repenting that every time I've had either of you guys on, I didn't let you guys do a Joburg. You guys always try to squeeze it in there as I was wrapping up, but I was,
Time to wrap it up with a nice Joburg bow.
All right.
Joe.
Thanks for your time, guys. Everyone else, thanks for watching this wild interview with G.i. Joburg, and we'll catch you next time.